Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Astra Season Offense matches. I decided to use Naga's bonus week as an excuse to try something a little different, and turn her into the star of her own team. This isn't something I'd recommend trying outside of her bonus week. Without the extra stats, specifically the extra HP, it's a lot harder to make her work as a proper tank. Naga's weapon isn't what I'd call extremely powerful, but it does a good job of boosting her stats with the right setup. It's fairly easy for her to get at least +6 to every stat from it, which is the benchmark I used while theory crafting this build. The built-in dragon slaying effect is also very useful now that Ceres is such a common sight. Distant counter is pretty self-explanatory for any non-safe tanking strategy, and an Iote's shield seal lets her shrug off enemy archers. There are usually more useful skills for tanking than Divine Fang, but its ability to enable her weapon is too important to ignore, especially since it unlocks some extremely powerful non-dragon slaying support options. Dragon Wall is the most interesting part of her kit, and it isn't really something that's an immediately obvious fit for Naga. While she can reach a visible res stat of 44, that's still not high enough to reliably count on it being fully active. That's where all of Naga's support starts to come in. Between her own weapon, Sedith, Inoka, and Eliwood's bonus doubler, Naga's stats start getting out of hand very quickly. In the optimal situation, she ends up with 102 attack, 83 speed, 76 defense, and 75 res as her combat stats, at which point she can basically stat check any unit in the game. To be fair, she's not normally working with that level of stats, since that would require all 3 units buffing her weapon and some pretty specific placement, and usually that's not really possible against a good AR defense setup. But even if we're only working with a couple of supports, she's still able to reach 98 attacks, 79 speed, 72 defense, and 68 res pretty comfortably. I tailored her team to supporting her. Sedith and Hinoka's weapons have very similar joint drive attack speed effects, which stack up very nicely with Naga's own weapon. Since they're also both flyers, they can support her even further with an extra +4 to stats from Magode and Ward flyers, along with another 4 def and res by combining close and distant guard seals. Legendary Eliwood was in season this week too, and he's a great support for Naga since she enables Vision of Arcadia for him. She's also got enough base attack to almost always be the target for that and his bonus doubler effect, letting him provide her with easy access to a full spectrum of visible buffs. Plumeria's weapon effect can let her sneak in another handful of attack and res from outside the usual drive range as well. I didn't give her a full ward flyers just because I wanted to keep her flexible for other teams. Reagan caps things off with double life and death, which lets her reliably soak bright shrines from Naga. I did run into a few matches that Naga couldn't quite handle this week, and Legendary Dimitri was a solid answer to fall back on. Like the last couple of weeks, he's an extraordinarily powerful unit thanks to the combination of damage reduction and atrocity, while Panic Smoke just rounds out his kit and lets him forcibly shut down any team that uses visible buffs. Furim's support is a great way to help him handle enemy dancers and rally traps, although mismanaging isolation can actually cost you a match. I actually did that to myself in one of the matches this week, which was a little embarrassing when I looked back at it. I also tweaked Altina's kit this week. Since Naga's using a combat kit, Altina's the best way to provide the team with visible buffs. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. So this match is going to be a bit of a quiet start to the week. It's a walled-in setup, which really never helps the defenders. And while they do have a Bravebow Lyn and a Reinhardt, who are pretty significant threats, again, this walled-in setup is just not doing them any favors at all. They do have a +6 Mirabilis too, so I'm not entirely sure why this is what they came up with, but it is still using 2 Mythics and Mirabilis is a bonus, so it's not like they lose a whole lot of lift from this, even if they don't get any wins. I'm going to take a few turns to set up for this one. Mostly because I want to break this Dark Shrine, which can actually hit Naga, and I'd rather avoid that. But also because I'm going to use this Bolt Tower to force Veronica to waste a few actions by healing Valoria and Thracier, since this healing tower doesn't quite patch them up to full health.
Time to fly. Oh, I'll do it.
And that way I can make sure that all 3 of their major threats are knocked out in the first turn.
My turn?
Over here?
This also lets me test a couple of these traps to make sure that we find the real ones.
What is your desire? I got this.
Okay.
Let us begin.
Move Setup over, pull him back.
Close your eyes.
Put down Snoka and move her over here. This lets me get all of Naga's dragon buffs active for the next turn.
What's your plan?
And I'm not too worried about the sabotage from Mirabilis, because Naga can actually beat this res check after we give him the link buff from Eliud. So we'll just smite her forward, move Noka up.
Time to fly.
That's okay.
I won't lose.
Reposition Seteth up,
Why not?
and we'll be just fine. I'll just go ahead and move Reagan over here. Naga ends up being a really large ball of stats with the right support. And Thracier's attack is a little intimidating, but thanks to Dragon Wall,
For the children of man.
she just can't really get much done. And I am actually already very glad that I decided to use Aotes for her seal. It was mostly for leaves, but works for brave bows as well.
Yes.
From here things should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to tank Veronica and then enemy phase Valoria, which hopefully draws Mirabilis over to the right.
What is your desire?
My turn?
Oh, I'll do it. Over here?
What's your plan?
I got this.
And that way I can just have Reagan pick up this other ether pot without any problems. Oh good.
By my flame. I won't lose.
Alright.
My turn?
Why not?
Let's see now.
It will be done.
I'll just pick up Veronica and then retreat out of range. Since the wall's still unbroken, Mirabilis will always chase out of this little hole,
Is it time?
which makes it very easy for Reagan to get this next turn, with a little bit of help from Plumeria.
Close your eyes. Got him in my sights. What is your desire? Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
And that'll close it out. It's a pretty easy start to the week, but we'll see what we get next time. So this match was several steps up from what I was expecting to see this early in the week. It's a 7th unit dance trap featuring this fully maxed duo leaf, backed up by a +10 Zeros with Wings of Mercy, a +9 Duma, because I didn't need to do that one, sorry, a Duo Peony, Duo Sigurd, a +10 Azura, who is giving ground orders to Ophelia and air orders to Peony. Ophelia is only +6. This is a very scary team if you're not ready to handle something like this. And I really wanted to use Naga for this one, but unfortunately she can't quite tank both Ophelia and Leaf in the same turn, just because Leaf would stop her from healing with Fatal Smoke. And without an isolation on Naga's team, there's no way to help corral all of this properly. The way I'm going to handle this is by isolating this column, which is going to force Ophelia to rally Peony after we knock Leaf out. And because of that, she's not actually going to get to attack before we get to Pulse Smoke her special way, and that will help a lot. I do need to be very careful with how I do this, just to make sure that everything gets into the correct place.
Your orders.
Okay, that was real. This is fine.
What is your desire?
Reposition Plumeria over to dance him, and we'll just knock Leaf out to start this fight. Plumeria should be safe here, assuming I figured this all out correctly. And time to find out. Okay. Yep, Peony does a chunk of damage here.
Don't let them retreat.
And Duma and Saros should do significant chunks as well, but none of it should be quite enough to take Dimitri out.
We will not lose. It's our chance to prevail.
And Saros ends up being the last part of the team. Well, Azura will attack too, but she's not going to get very much done. Whew.
It's our chance to prevail.
I'm very glad that I was able to figure that one out. It took a lot of math to make sure that everything would work the way I thought it would. So I went and did just a little bit of quick math to make sure I was correct about this, but Plumeria should be able to tank Sigurd and not kill him on the counterattack, which will let us pick these pots up before the end of the match.
I'll comply.
I'll do it. It will be done. Why not? Over here?
Consider it done.
Let's find happiness.
Yep. And even though Plumeria actually gets a Glimmer in here, Sigurd's 50% damage reduction. Uh-oh. Oh no, he's still got enough health. I somehow forgot that his weapon gets disabled if he's attacking something that's not at full health. Thankfully, Plumeria had enough self-restraint that we don't end up knocking him out, and we can pick the second pot up for letting Dimitri finish the match. Ah, alright, that was a fun one. On to the next. So, this is going to be a really interesting match. I'm relying pretty heavily on what I know about manipulating the AI. It's sort of a two-pronged trap with Camilla using Restore and Sigurd to dance their 7th unit Cirrus to try and activate the map immediately, regardless of what you do to try and isolate it. So they have 3 dancers to try and force probably Leaf to move first, since he's the only one of these 3 without an assist. The only problem with it, honestly, is that it's actually, even with the Restore, really vulnerable to sabotage effects. Now, with all that said, there's a chance that I've actually completely messed this up and underestimated the AI. So we'll see what happens.
Got him in my sights.
First thing I need to do is test this bolt trap, and I can't do that with Naga over here because I don't have any way to heal her on the team. Okay, so it's not real.
Yeah.
I'm not going to test this heavy trap because it would actually be a problem
Is it time?
if it stuck Hinoka in place.
Why not?
And then we're going to dance Hinoka so that she doesn't get hit by this tactic room.
Time to fly.
So what should happen here is that Cirrus is going to get danced, and Camilla should restore Rayson from above where he is, or restore Mirabilis first, but I think she's going to restore Rayson. We'll see. Either way, she should never restore from this tile below him, because this spot is actually being threatened by Reagan.
I got this.
And what all of this means is that the map should activate, because we're leaving Naga in range of where Sigurd will be, but nothing should actually reach us, which lets us start this fight the next turn. Oh, well that made everything very easy. I thought things would start moving, actually. How strange. It doesn't really change my plan, though.
Over here?
I'm going to move Reagan out of the way. And we're going to flip Naga, smite her,
Yes.
move her into position.
Huh.
Things should start actually moving now. There we go. Not too worried about Seros, since Naga has a little bit too much res for her to handle. Okay. Okay, so this ended up being a bit trickier of a situation than I would have liked, and a lot of it has to do with my forgetting to buff Reagan when I should have, to help her soak this bright shrine. And since Naga soaked it, she's not getting bonus doubler from Eliwood this turn, which hurts a lot for her ability to tank everything except Leaf, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just back up out of range of Duma and force Leaf to come in first, which should keep Naga out of range of everything except the Duma potentially and the Leaf.
I won't lose.
Let's see now.
Close your eyes.
Now, there is a chance that I still actually goofed this if I messed up. And Duma should end up getting danced by Seeger and reaching us, which is a little awkward, but hoping that it'll be okay.
It will be done.
Part of this also just depends on whether or not... Oh no, okay. So, we're not going to get debuffed, which is important. And Leaf is going to attack, which is fine. Even if we don't get to heal here, we're actually still one-shotting him, which is very important. And that also means that we should survive Duma very easily. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we're going to have Naga move here. I'm going to break this bright shrine, since we don't need the wall anymore, which lets Plumeria jump over here, dance Naga forward, and break Camilla.
Be warned.
And we'll move Setath up here to try and break this tactic room. Oh, and it worked. Awesome.
Over here?
We'll move Reagan this way,
My turn?
and Eliwood out this way. Yep, good. Setath tanks that quite nicely. And even without her support squad, Naga's still able to deal with Raisin pretty easily. And Maribel's doesn't do any better.
By my flame.
And from here it's actually pretty easy to clean things up.
I won't lose.
What's your plan? Is it time?
Yep.
Close your eyes.
And then Naga can go here. Setath can break one of the pots, and Naga can get ready to break the last one. Whew. This was a pretty
Let's see.
close match a few times over there. but thankfully
Let us
we've got
begin.
this.
Got him in my sights. What is your desire?
Alright. We had it all along. Never a doubt. Never a doubt. Alright, on to the next one. This one's going to be a bit less exciting than the last couple have been. It's... I've said it before, but walled-in setups are never a good idea if you're trying to actually succeed with your defense. It just gives the challenging team too many ways to approach you. And a double walled-in setup like this, where they block off most of their team to start with and then have one unit stuck in a corner, well, it just makes everything much easier to deal with. They do, even though most of this team is really just running their base kits, they do have a couple of tricks to it. Bollywood's giving bonus doubler and a bunch of extra attack and defense to Edelgard, and the spur attack and drives from Corrin and Fjorm can actually catch people off guard sometimes, I think, if they're not paying attention. And, well, when you see it set up like this, it's actually pretty easy to just dismiss it and not pay attention at all. So, I'm going to try and set this up to start the fight on the second turn. I'd like to pull before this bolt tower activates, just because it would limit how much healing Naga can get.
What's your plan?
So, we're going to start by just testing both of these traps.
Got him in my sights.
And that one's real, which is very helpful.
It will be done.
Close your eyes.
Yes.
Then we break this and make sure Naga's buffing both of her main supports for the next turn.
I won't lose.
So I'm going to open this up with Reagan.
My turn?
And Naga should have no problems dealing with Eliwood, even with no support.
Let us begin.
I can move Sedith over here.
I'll do it.
I guess I didn't have to do that since he actually has escape route active.
I got this.
Oh well. It's okay. I planned it out, assuming that he wouldn't. Edelgard gets to do a pretty solid chunk of damage here. But it's not enough to really threaten Naga,
Stop me.
Be warned.
and she's the biggest threat to Naga on her entire team, so...
Deliberation is over.
Naga heals back up. And from here we're basically in the clear. There's nothing else left that can actually threaten Naga at all. Corrin doesn't even get a negating fang since she's attacking into an injured target.
Be warned.
And, well, poor Fjorm. We'll probably take another turn just to get in position here.
Is it time?
Yeah.
Time to fly.
Why not?
I got this.
Let's see now.
But there's really not a lot that Leaf can do on its own.
Over here?
What is your desire?
Close your eyes.
My turn?
Oh, I'll do it.
It will be done. Got him in my sights.
And then we just tank Leaf to end the match. Overall, pretty straightforward this time. Guess we'll see what we get next one. So this one's going to be a much more interesting match. Partly because the layout here is extremely familiar, since it's almost identical to what I use in my Dark Weeks. They've got a +10 Eliwood with well speed defense. I've really been thinking about using this for my own Eliwood. I think it helps a lot for just making sure that he can do damage to some of the bulkier targets he fights. They're also backing him up with this almost maxed out Felix. I think they're just waiting for the free manual we should be getting. And, well, I'm a big fan of this build for Felix myself, even though he's not running Farsafe, which does leave these two a little bit exposed to hit and runs. It does also make this distant counter Edelgard make a little more sense, even when she's running close save. They've also got a pretty solid Eldigan and Mirabilis for dancing, and Mirabilis is providing ground orders to Felix and Thracier. Cirrus is over here as the 7th unit. I think she makes this a little bit easier to hit and run against, as long as you can attack her safely. But at the same time, it's still helpful for the extra stats. My approach to this is going to look pretty basic, I think, but it did involve actually a lot of math just to make sure that I can pull this off properly. I'm going to take one turn to set up,
I got this.
mostly just to make sure that I can get buffs onto
I'll
all
do it.
3 of
What's your
Naga's supports,
Over here?
and make sure I can break this Dark Shrine on next turn. Okay,
I won't lose.
so we can break that, make sure Naga doesn't get any
My turn?
debuffs going into the next turn.
It will be done.
Move here,
Close your eyes.
and dance with Plumeria. Debuffing Edelgard is important because it makes her significantly easier for Naga to actually knock out. I don't think she'd need the debuffs, since we're not attacking, or she should be fighting out of range of Eldigan and this close guard, but I'd like
What
to
is
make
your
sure.
desire? Got him in my sights.
And we'll leave Hinoka here, and say go. This is probably going to get very close, and there's a chance that I missed something with the math, but I think I've got this right. Bracer should attack first, because she does the most damage and loses the least amount of health.
Zah.
And while this attack looks pretty intimidating, it gets blunted by Dragon Wall very nicely. Felix should move in next, since he's the one who does the most damage after Thracier.
Yeah.
Most of that comes down to the bonfire.
This is your name on it.
And Naga gets very low here, and we don't get to heal, since Felix has a guard effect. But Edelgard can't actually do enough to finish her off, so the next one to move in is actually Eliwood, who doesn't let Naga heal either, thanks to his special fighter. And now Edelgard moves in, since she's the last one in range.
By my flame.
And Edelgard does not have a guard effect, so we get to heal
You
in
can't
time
stop me.
to tank this bonfire and finish her off. Ooh, okay. It got a little close there, and thankfully from here it should be very simple to just clean things up.
It will be done.
I'm going to move Naga up here,
What is your
but
desire?
I'm going to make sure
Why
Myriad
not?
dances her first, just to make sure we're not taking
It
any
will be
damage
done.
at all from these dancers.
Let us begin.
And since Ceres isn't using an assist, like a rally of any kind, I don't have to worry about her attacking, or these dancers do.
Time to fly.
So we
Let's
can
see
just do this, move everyone in behind Naga, and let her tank the rest. Well, except for Ceres, we'll finish her off next turn.
By my flame.
Alright, and from here things should be
What
very
is your
straightforward.
desire?
We don't even need her supports to finish Ceres off. Ooh, that was a fun one. It's always interesting to run into a defense that almost matches your own, so it's good to be able to clear this one with Naga. On to the next one. This was the match that I misplayed kind of badly, even if it's not obvious at first. The defense is really well structured, using a very similar layout to the second match of the week, but Sephirin's involvement complicates things, since his Tannin Baton really helps shut down any special-based healing that a tank tries to use. I did actually do a lot of thinking about this one, and I almost had it solved. My only problem was isolating Sephirin. Because I isolated him, Thracier won't actually be able to rally a second target, which is what I was counting on, since we'd actually survive Hector, Leaf, and Sigurd being able to attack in, and then survive and heal from Sephirin at the end of this. But since I isolated Thracier's second rally target, she ends up attacking instead. And because of that, we don't have enough survivability to make it through Leaf and Sigurd afterwards. And once Dimitri's down, it's enough for me to surrender the match. Alright, so I'm still a little rattled after that last one. I figured out shortly afterwards that all I had to do is not isolate Sephirin and it would have gone fine, but anyway, moving on. This is an interesting 7th unit trap that's kind of mixed in with a Cavline as well. They've got a Water Sweep Lilina, which is fun, a Leaf using Guard, weaponless Legendary Azura, Gustav for the close save, and the trap that I'm assuming means that Peony moves forward to threaten some extra spaces on the left. I've got Ceros and a +10 Raisin. I think something like this can definitely catch people off guard if they're not paying attention, because once Peony moves forward and extends this range, Leaf would end up rallying her and getting danced, and that can definitely knock something out in the back line. And it did take me a while to figure out a way to approach this. So what I'm going to do is take out this Panic Manor because it's actually really well placed. And I'm going to have Naga tank this from the right side to take out Leaf and Lilina on the first turn.
Got him in my sights.
Is it time?
Seteth down here
What's your
and
plan?
smite Naga over. She can
Yes.
move in position,
Why not?
and we'll dance Reagan.
Over here?
We'll pull Plumeria back here. Oh, there won't be any rallies involved at all. Very good. We take a chunk of damage from Alina, but it's only the pre-combat damage. Once we get moving, Lena can't actually get anything done. And Leaf shouldn't be able to do any damage either. Mostly because he's not using his lull, so it really shuts down how much he can actually do. He does stop us from healing, but I'm not too worried about it. Ceres gets danced forward. And with that, most of the threat on the team is gone. So, while the first turn went very well, this turn ended up being a bit of a movement puzzle too, because I need to make sure that we're not letting anything reach our backline, and I want to make sure that Ceres and ideally Peony get themselves knocked out this turn. So, thanks to Peony's aerobatics, we should be able to bait her forward and kill Ceres too, from this tile where Reagan is.
What
So
is
we're
your
going to move
desire?
Naga down a space,
Close your eyes.
and dance her.
I got this.
Can move Hinoka up here,
Over here?
Reagan over here,
My turn?
and then we'll reposition Elliewood, which gives her the link buff,
Huh.
and get Seteth up into range to support her. We can even just reposition Plumeria out of any risk of harm. Yep. Peony gets baited because she can actually do some damage, mostly because Naga doesn't have her entire support crew.
Deliberation is over.
And then Ceres does very little. And without Peony in the mix, Gustav can't actually move far enough to get anything done, so... So we did have one more little movement puzzle to take care of. Naga, as is, can't really handle Gustav, but at the same time, his weapon is disabled, as long as he's the one attacking her. So, if I move Elliewood out of the way,
It will be done.
and Naga repositions Seteth,
Why not?
we can dance her,
What is your
move her
desire?
into position, and that fight's already looking much better,
I got
and then
this.
Hinoka can fly her formation in there as well. And we can have Reagan start moving up here to collect the pot. It's a bit annoying not to have bonus doubler available for this turn, but you can live without it.
For the children of man.
It's mostly just because I couldn't avoid the Bright Shrine hitting Naga this turn, but she doesn't need it to take care of these two.
For the children of man.
And with that, she goes back up to full health.
Over here?
And from here, we can breathe a sigh of relief as we finish the map.
Let us begin.
Oh, I could have sworn that was going to be the real trap. Oh well. It's fine. That's a good one to bounce back with. Very tricky movement throughout those first few turns. But we got it. On to the next one. So this is going to be a fun match at the end of the week. They're not using any mythics, but they kind of try to offset that with a very nearly untankable set of units. starting with this maxed out Bernadetta, and including a pre-charged Dragon Fang Lysithea, who has 2 infantry pulses to enable her, along with this +10 Selena. Selena I'm not so sure about. I think she can do a lot of work, especially against some of the save armors that a lot of people are using, but she might need null follow-up for that. They've also got a pre-charged Alfonse thanks to these pulses, and an Azura to try and help everything get into the fight. It's a lot of firepower. I do think it's pretty vulnerable to pulse smoke, or to just getting outstatted if they're not careful. Which Naga can do here.
Why not? Over here?
I'm going to take the first turn just to set up. I need to make sure that I break this Dark Shrine so that we're not taking too much damage on the next turn. And from here, we're going to move Hinoka up a space.
It will be done.
We'll have Naga reposition Hollywood.
My turn?
We will smite Reagan. And by smiting Reagan, I make sure that she actually soaks this Bright Shrine the next turn. And she also gets to break this Dark Shrine.
Close your eyes.
I'm going to dance Hinoka, which also debuffs Lysithea's attack and makes her a little bit easier to tank. And then we can reposition Naga to bait all 3 of these at once, and move Hinoka to the back line.
I do not have time to waste.
Naga takes a chunk from Lysithea, but it's not going to actually knock her out.
A new year.
Alfonse isn't much trouble either. Unfortunately, I'm thinking about this, and
Deliberation is over.
I may have forgotten a pretty important detail. Naga can handle all of this. The question is whether or not this Selena actually ends up getting onto someone I don't want her to hit, and I think she might. Uh-oh. Hinoka, be careful. Okay. We're okay. Thankfully the flyer buffs help a lot with that as well. So from here most of the problem is just reaching these pots. And I think I've got a good way to do that. I'm going to use Seteth to bait Azura,
It will be done.
which should give us a good way to clean things up, because we still have a nice little corner that we can get her into.
Why not?
And thanks to flyer formation, it's pretty easy to get back into the right spot.
Is it
And
time?
I'll plant Seteth here. Azura should move above this tactic room this turn, and then I can move Seteth down below this chair next turn.
I got this.
Let's see now.
And we'll just continue making sure Reagan is soaking this shrine.
I won't lose.
Azura moves in first. She can't do a whole lot with the fortress skill and no special, so we're just going to move her into the corner while we pick everything else up.
For the children of man.
I'll do it.
What's your plan?
Close your eyes.
We'll just make extra sure that he's not going to take any damage.
It will be done.
Oh. Okay, Will. Now I need to
Let us begin.
take another turn to do this.
Over here?
How unfortunate. Silly trap had to be real, didn't it?
Is it time?
Okay, let's make sure that you actually go where I want you to this time.
Time to fly.
Why not?
So it took me longer than it should have to remember that I have a tactic room deployed, and that's why Aether is actually gravitied. It's not just because of this heavy trap. So
Let us begin.
I'm going to go ahead and get Setheth to break this. Aether is not going to attack Plumeria anyway.
My turn?
And from here, should be able to reach these pots and finish the match.
Close your eyes.
Is it time?
It will be done.
I won't lose.
Let's see now.
Got him in my sights.
Alright. Ended up cutting it a lot closer than I would have liked, but we still made it.
I'll do it.
Time to fly. Yes.
Alright. On to the last match. This is going to be a fun way to close the week out. It's a rematch, and, well, after what they used to clear my defense, I'm not feeling bad about using Dimitri for this at all. They've got a +1 Alfonse, and a Flash Veronica, who really helped just do a lot, honestly, for threatening this field, especially since Alfonse is mostly immune to Pulse Smoke, thanks to his Time's Pulse. It keeps his Moonbow charged at the start of every turn. They've got this +8 Eldigan, who is very solid in either season, I think, but I'm not sure that the Fortress skill is ideal in anima seasons when Fjorm is the dancer you should be avoiding. They've also got a Duo Leaf, and a Mirabilis in her bonus week, and a Saros, who's their 7th unit. They have this set up so that Saros isn't actually going to get danced right away, which means that mostly this is just a way of threatening most of the map with this Veronica before having everyone else get danced in and causing havoc. We do actually have an extra turn set up in a wider space thanks to this tactic room hindering Veronica, but I'm not actually planning to use it, since I don't actually need the extra time to set up. Thankfully, they don't have any Bright Shrines or Dark Shrines that I have to worry about here. So, once Mirabilis is isolated, we can just get Dimitri
What is your desire?
moved in
Why not?
and dancing forward
I'll
to knock
comply.
Veronica out on the first turn. This is going to get very close, assuming I've done my math properly, and there's a chance that I didn't, but I think I got this. So, Alphonse should attack first, since he's the only one who actually survives Dimitri.
Our warmest wishes?
For a wonderful new year!
This does a chunk, but we heal
We
back
will not lose.
a significant amount from it. And Atrocity actually disables his Moonbow for this combat, so he doesn't actually do too much this time around. He still gets a chunk
Don't
done.
let them retreat.
Leaf should move in next, and probably move in, yep, right there. And we don't get to heal from him, which is a little annoying, and is
On my honor.
why things are going to get very close by the end of this turn. Saris should move in next, since she's the last unit who actually does damage to Dimitri. But she can't quite do enough.
Don't let them retreat.
This next part is actually interesting because his weapon, Dimitri's weapon, is actually disabled for this combat, since he's just too low on health. But it doesn't matter because Mirabilis and Leaf can't actually get anything done to him.
On my honor.
And then Leaf very helpfully puts Dimitri back up to a fairly healthy state. So from here I just want to make sure I secure these pots. Even though we don't need them, it's still
I won't
a good
lose.
habit to have. So I'm going to get Altina this
I
way,
love
move Fjorm up,
You have my trust.
smite her forward. Fjorm's the only one on this team who can really tank Eldigan
you.
safely.
Close your eyes.
Lumeria might be able to take a hit from him, but it would get really close and I'd rather not risk it.
Yes.
Dimitri can move over one,
Let's find
and
happiness.
Fjorm can move on to the defense tile.
It will be done.
And with the defense tiles, she should be able to handle this pretty easily. Okay, I'm going to have to take one more turn, just sort of maneuvering into position.
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't even real.
I'll
So
do
from
it.
here, we can just dance Reagan, which debuffs Eldigan and makes him a bit easier for Fjorm to tank.
Over here?
And we'll just move Reagan here, out of his range,
Careful,
move Fjorm
careful.
down, and then
Consider it
smite her
done.
back onto this tile to get her defense buffs back.
What is your desire?
And then we wait one more turn. This time Eldigan also doesn't even have his weapon active, so he doesn't even hit as hard.
I won't lose.
And with that, it's very easy to finish this match.
You have my trust.
It will be done. I love you.
Your orders.
And down he goes. Whew. It's nice to go into that having done the math, but at the same time I don't like it when it gets that close. Dimitri still pulled through, and it's good to give him a chance to recover after I cost us that other match I used him in. It was a pretty good week overall. Even with that lost match, we did really well overall, and it was a lot of fun to actually get to use Naga as a primary unit for most of the week. Next week, we'll actually be having some more fun with experiments. I'm planning to use Morgan to take Light Season by storm. Hopefully he works out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.